1 second ago, the sea was calm and still gray. Noon second later, it became a slaughterhouse of fire where metal screamed and water burned. The blast didn't come from a single warhead, but from a whole rain of missiles tearing across the night sky. And the moment the first white flash kissed the waves, everything shattered. Like glass under a hammer, warships heeled over. Smoke columns rose and oily spray rolled across the deck like a sentence being carried out. My friends, the scenario we're about to enter will recreate one of the most brutal naval battles ever imagined, where three superpowers, America, Russia, and China, are dragged into the same spiral because of one red dot on the radar, and no one is willing to blink from Tomahawk screaming through the wind to Kalibr, skimming like ghosts in electronic warfare that turns the ocean blind and heart-made. And before we walk through every breathless second of it, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment so you can join me on this journey of intense military stories and cinematic reconstructions. Now let's begin. South of the Circle, the ocean is flat like a cold mirror. The wind knives across the deck, carrying salt and the smell of melting ice. On the horizon, a strange glow appears. Not a fishing trawler, not a cargo ship, an island of steel. Moving with purpose, it's a massive Chinese flag-floating structure, claiming scientific survey. And the escort around it is anything but civilian. 2 destroyers, 4 frigates, a supply ship, and the most important detail, tactical comm signatures that say this formation is not a. At the same time, from the north, another cluster blooms on the scope Russian holes. Naval is bright and undeniable. Sliding into the same grid square, a message goes out on the international channel, cold as ice. Military activity in progress. Star vessels keep clear on an American Aegis destroyer. The red lights in combat flare like a heartbeat spiking. The watch officer stares at the screen. 2 hostile-looking formations converging into one box of black water. The U.S. commander orders a warning broadcast. This is international water. Maintain safe separation and declare intentions. The reply is silence. And then a short, hard click in unmistakable radar lock that lasts only a moment. Just 1 second. But it's enough for everyone to understand someone just tested the first trigger of war 2157. The distance between the leading edges drops to 15 kilometers. White wakes split the sea as speed rises, the wind stings faces, and on deck sailors check safeties without speaking. Then a Russian frigate cuts across the American bow. That small maneuver with the weight of a slab. 2 massive holes slide past close enough to see figures on the other deck through spray and floodlights. A scrape happened. Not a full collision. Just steel grinding steel, but it drags something more dangerous than shrapnel into the air. National pride. From the Chinese structure loudspeakers boom, you are interfering with civilian operations. From the Russian side comes the next line, this is a security zone. Depart immediately. 2203, the sky seems to darken. Not from clouds, but from electronic warfare dropping over the grid like a heavy blanket. Radar sectors fuzz out calm. Hiss and crackle like a knife on stone, and in that exact slice of confusion, something punches up from the sea, leaving a needle-thin flame trail. No one can confirm whose launch it is. Only the alarms matter now. Incoming missile. Aegis snaps to intercept mode. Defensive missiles leap upward like spears of light, ripping the night open. A detonation blossoms high above, white and violent. Debris falls like a brief meteor shower, but immediately a second wave appears. This one is low, fast, hugging the surface so close the water beneath it tears into a long white scar. American ship shudders, sailors grip railings. Metal clatters like teeth in a storm. 2208, a deep underwater pump rolls through the hull. Torpedo detonation near the beam. Not a kill shock, but enough to slam the ship sideways. Water floods a compartment, red lights stroll through corridors, and the smell of burning insulation spreads faster than fear. Right out in the distance, a Chinese escort vessel is suddenly on fire. Someone has been hit, and now every side believes it was first blood against them from the Russian coastline. Launch signatures spike while under the surface submarine traces multiply like gathering shadows. 2215, the sky tears open with aircraft. Launches from multiple directions. IFCOs stack over each other like a tangled web. American fighters roar into the jamming while Russian patrol aircraft push closer like they want to stare directly into the Americans' eyes. China releases high-orbiting drones that sprinkle blinking points over the grid like fireflies. Except these fireflies carry coordinates cruise missiles ripple off. No one even argues about who fired first anymore. Only the sky full of burning lines. The sea erupts into towering water columns and then gets sliced again by the sharp white flashes of Tips 22-22. A Russian ship takes a hit aft, flames jet upward like a red cyclone. Sailors scatter under screaming sirens. A Chinese frigate heels, hard black smoke pours so thick it blankets the deck like a curtain falling on a tragedy. And on the American side, one aircraft vanishes from the net, only a clipped voice on the radio, and then nothing on the surface. Life rafts appear in pieces. Men cling to twisted metal, their eyes empty as they watch the sky fight above them 2230. Then comes the moment that turns blood cold. A ballistic warning pings across the network. No one says the worst word out loud, everyone thinks it. Because when America, Russia, and China stand inside one ring of fire, one slip is the end of the world. Multi-layer defense goes, leave us interceptors launch. Russia intensifies, jamming China floods the battle space with decoys and false targets. The sky becomes a lethal fireworks show, brutal in a way that makes you sick. One object breaks apart under interceptor flash, sweeps the sea, and the burning oil below glows red like blood spreading in circles. 2238, the center of everything is that Chinese floating megastructure, now no longer civilian, but a steel stake hammered into three nations. Pride America issues a final warning. Pull your escorts back and remove the structure from the area. Immediately Russia answers. Any approach will be treated as a direct security threat. China stays silent, and then the structure's perimeter lights shift to red like an answer without words. And right then another salvo rises from afar, dark, low, and fast. It screams sharp enough to cut through the ocean's old roar. 2244. The peaked two ships on the forward line erupt almost together. The sea throws up a wall of water and then collapses into a rain of steel. Shards fly hundreds of meters. Screams mix with waves, and in the smoke human shapes vanish. They surface again and vanish. A commander somewhere orders, neutralize the destabilizing platform. But no one can even agree what the target is anymore. Rounds and impacts chew into the structure's lower supports. Metal groans like a living beast and pain fire climbs so high it paced the clouds of false dawn, and then burns. Slowly, cruelly, the entire mass tilts. Before it collapses into the sea, the surface detonates. A mountain of water erupts outward, and a ring of flame spreads across the grid, turning the Bering night into a furnace mouth. 2252 silence drops for a few seconds. The kind of silence that only comes after too much becomes irreversible. Over the radio, there is no cheering, only broken questions. Who's alive? Respawn. Who's alive? The formations begin to withdraw, not because anyone won, but because all of them can see the same abyss opening in front of their bows. Rescue boats blast down, hands shake as survivors are hauled up, faces smeared with oil, eyes red from smoke, and from realizing what they almost summoned. By dawn, the sea still burns in patches, wreckage drifts like nameless gravestones, and the shockwave isn't on the water anymore. It's in phones and markets and headlines and the fear that spreads continent to continent at the United Nations. An emergency session runs through the night. Satellite imagery shows a massive burning slick inside the ice sea. No one calls it victory, because when America, Russia, and China pull away in silence, what remains is only casualty numbers and a bitter lesson that peace doesn't break from big decisions. It breaks from small moments. One radar lock, one burst of jamming, one bow cut too close. And if this hypothetical story leaves you cold, that's the warning it carries. The ocean doesn't choose sides. It always collects blood as payment. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me for the next cinematic hypothetical battle story. The flames on the water don't die fast. They crawl, they spread, they cling to wreckage like a living thing refusing to let go. Searchlights sweep the smoke, and every time they catch a face in the waves, it's the same expression: shock, salt, and the hollow look of someone who just watched history crack on the American destroyer. Damage control teams move like ghosts through red-lit corridors, sealing compartments, dragging hose, counting heads that won't answer. The Russian deck, a medic, kneels beside a sailor whose hands won't stop shaking, even after the fire is out and on the surviving Chinese. Escorts the loudspeakers finally go silent, No more slogans, no more warnings, only the low thrum of engines turning away the 21st of December 2025, 23:30, Washington, Moscow embracing the three capitals. One nightmare war rooms light up like beehives hit with a stick, phones ringing, A's running, screens replaying the same satellite shots over and over. A single question poisons every room. Was that ballistic warning real or a false echo inside the jamming? Because the difference between those two answers is not politics. Z's survival, the US national command, authority demands confirmation. Russia demands apologies. China demands an investigation, while refusing to admit what that structure truly was. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise, an old channel opens, an emergency line that hasn't carried a real human voice in years. 2341, the hotlink clicks, and for 3 seconds nobody speaks. Then the calm voice says the sentence that matters more than any speech. We are not seeking escalate. Wang, confirm your intent. Another voice answers colder but controlled. We are not seeking escalate either. Stand down your forward assets. And a third voice, tight, measured, adds, we will withdraw if you guarantee no pursuit. 3 sentences, 3 breaths, and for the first time since the first radar lock, the world feels the smallest shift away from the cliff. The 21st of December 2025, 23:55, the Bering Sea burning grid, human bodies, and the thin line called restraint, a temporary corridor is declared over open channels. Search and rescue operations, no hostile maneuvers inside the box. It's not trust, this exhaustion dressed up as protocol. Ships keep distance, weapons stay trained, and every radar ping is treated like a loaded gun, being pointed then slowly lowered, dropping flares that turn the water into a field of silver nine. Survivors are hauled up one by one. Hands blistered from ripping metal, lips blue from cold, eyes fixed on nothing. And when a Chinese sailor is pulled aboard an American ship, there is no cheering, only a pause. Moment where both sides remember that drowning doesn't care what flag you wear. 24:09:110, a second spark, because war never ends where you want it to. Far from the rescue corridor, a Russian submarine contact pings on a US sonar screen, faint, ambiguous, but real enough to spike adrenaline at the same time. A Chinese drone drifting crosses into a restricted air lane, and the identification signal flickers like a dying light. Someone somewhere calls it a probe, someone else calls it an accident, and for a terrifying minute, both fleets begin to rearm their posture as if the kit was only a word written on water missile. Hatches unlatched, radar power rises. Fighter jets spool up, you can almost hear the ocean hold its breath. 118 in an order cuts through the noise. Shot, absolute, hold fire. A pilot already rolling down the deck is told to stop a weapons officer with a firing solution on screen. Stole to clear it, and just like that, the second spark is crushed before it becomes flame, not because anyone suddenly became kind, but because every commander in that grid saw the same image in their head. What happens if the next launch isn't conventional? 24:09, 3 o'clock. The world reacts, Marcus. Lunds, emergency broadcasts, cut into programming, and analysts fill screens with maps and arrows that suddenly feel too real. In coastal towns across the North Pacific, fishermen watch the horizon and wonder if the sea has become a border of fire. Families refresh news feeds, searching for names that haven't been released yet. The session becomes less about blame and more about one urgent demand. Confirm there will be no further launches. No one wants to admit fear. War, so they call it stability and deconfliction and risk reduction. But it is fear, pure and simple, standing behind every polite sentence. 24:09, 5:20. The first official statements, America calls it an unprovoked chain of aggressive actions. Russia calls it a reckless intrusion into a declared security activity. China calls it a tragic misunderstanding surrounding lawful operations. 3 versions of the same fire, none of them mention the thing everyone saw with their own eyes. A floating megastructure collapsing into flames, like a myth being drowned. 24:09. 7 o'clock, the aftermath on the water. The rescue corridor closes at sunrise, not because everyone is saved, but because staying longer invites the next incident. Ships separate like bruised animals backing away from a fight. They didn't mean to stop but couldn't stop once it began. The sea is left with wreckage. Oil, and the quiet popping sound of small fires dying on metal that used to be someone's home. A final helicopter circles low, searching for movement that isn't there. And then it turns away. 2409, 9:30, the real battle begins. Narrative footage is cut crop, slow down each side, publishes the frames that make them look like the victim, and the other look like the villain. Experts argue about radar locks and times like priests debating scripture, but the sailors who were there don't argue. They remember the sound of steel tearing and the way the ocean looked when it burned. And here's the most terrifying part, my friends. This wasn't a war plan executed cleanly. It was a chain reaction. Ego, sensors, jamming, misreads, each one small enough to dismiss until the sum of them became a catastrophe. The Bering Sea didn't become a battlefield because anyone wanted it. It became one because nobody wanted to be the first to step back. And that is how modern war starts. Not with drums, but with a flicker on a screen and a decision made in under 5 seconds. So now I ask you, if you were in that command chair, wing alarms screaming and leaves hanging on your next word, would you choose pride or would you choose restraint, even if it looks like weakness? Leave your answer in the comments. The Bering Sea goes quiet on the surface, but the shock wave travels under the water, through cables, through satellites, through politics, and by the time the world finishes arguing about who started it, the next board on the chess table is already being set. 22, 12, 202, 1820, the North Pacific, Alatian, Chain, gray sky, gray sea, gray decisions, a low ceiling of clouds hangs like a lid, and beneath it a S carrier strike group changes course, slow, deliberate, unmistakable. Farther west, a Chinese surface formation appears on long-range tracking, and from the North, Russian naval aviation starts flying wider arc, eyes in the sky, drawing circles that feel like tightening ropes. No one fires, but every radar sweep feels like a finger hovering over a trigger on bridges. And in combat centers, the move isn't victory or defeat, it's calculation. Cold, sleepless, counting distance and time like prayers, because everyone knows the same truth. The Bering incident can be framed as an accident, but a second incident becomes a pattern, and a pattern becomes a war. The 22nd of December 2025, 1905, the first invisible hit. When the lights go out, it begins not with a missile, but with a sudden silence and fiber lines under the sea, a major undersea cable route. Good? Then drops, financial terminals stutter, shipping tracker, blink off for minutes at a time. Air traffic coordination reroute across backups that were never meant to carry this much weight, and the rumor spreads faster than any confirmation. Someone cut the cable. 3 governments deny it. 3 militaries quietly raise readiness anyway. Because in modern conflict, the first strike can be a shadow, not a flame, and the ocean floor is the perfect place to hide a shadow. The 22nd of December 2025-2010, satellites and ghosts above. A surveillance satellite changes orbit, routine in on paper, threatening in interpretation. Another satellite reports interference, then a burst of static, and normal again. Analysts argue whether it's weather, solar noise, or something more intentional, but inside command rooms, nobody argues. They just take the next step up the ladder. A Russian officer calls it defensive monitoring. A Chinese spokesperson calls it misinformation. An American admiral calls it a de-icing environment, 3 languages. One meaning, we are watching you, 242/12, 21 o'clock, the Pacific incident. 30 seconds of pure risk. A patrol aircraft sees a contact. A fighter is vectored to intercept. The sky is empty until it isn't. 4 jets appear out of a cloud at closing speed. Metal and vapor, in a split second of judgment, they pass too close. So close to turbulence. Shakes both airframes. One pilot flashes a warning maneuver. The other reads it as aggression. And for half a heartbeat, both thumbs hover where they should never hover in peacetime. Then nothing, they separate. The ocean below stays silent. And every person who saw the Telemo exhales like they were underwater. But the damage is done because now the public has video, grainy, shaky, posted online with captions that scream attack and provocation. And once the crowd chooses a story, leaders have less room to breathe. The 22nd of December, 2022, 2210. The drifting weapon. When yesterday's battle bikes today's civilian, night falls again, and somewhere in the shipping lanes, a civilian tanker reports a flash on the water. A dull boom follows. Not a direct hit, but close enough to rupture a fuel line. Flames crawl along the surface like spilled sunlight. The crew sends a mayday. Panic, broken, real, and within minutes, news outlets run the headline nobody wanted to see. Commercial ship damaged amid rising tensions. No one claims responsibility. Everyone blames someone anyway. And suddenly, this isn't only sailors and admirals. It's civilians, it's insurance rates, it's ports, it's the price of food. It's fear walking into kitchens around the world. 2212s, 23 o'clock. The emergency line opens again. The hotline clicks, and this time the voices are faster, sharper. We're seeing public outrage. Content is now. We did not target civilians. Do not accuse us, then prove it. Open the corridor. Share. Tracking. Stop the jamming. Silence. Not hostile silence. Thinking silence. And then the first real concession of the entire crisis. A proposal appears. Simple, ugly, necessary. A temporary exclusion box. A shared rescue channel. A reduction of forward patrols inside a defined distance. It's not peace, it's a lid on a boiling pot. 2312-040. The dangerous hours. Because the lid can still explode, ships maneuver to new lines. Air patrols widen their arcs, and in every operation center, someone whispers the same question. What about the ones who don't get the memo? Because not every unit is connected. Not every commander is calm, and not every actor out there is state control. In the dark, an unidentified fast craft appears on radar. Too small to classify, too fast to ignore warnings. There are no answers. Spotlights paint the waves, the craft turns, then accelerates, and the entire grid locks up emotionally because everyone remembers how the last spiral began to flare. Is fired, a warning shot cracks the air, aimed wide, the craft slow, then stops. And when boarding teams approach, they find something that makes every throat go dry. Not a commando unit, not a navy, but a civilian crew. Frightened, lost, running without lights because their comms were dead and they thought the war had already started. That's the moment the commanders finally understand the true enemy of the last 24 hours. Not one nation, not one fleet, but confusion, misreading, and fear multiplying inside a system moving too fast for humans to stay in control. 2312, 2 o'clock, the world holds its breath again. A joint statement is drafted with words so carefully chosen, they feel like walking across glass. Temporary measures, incident prevention, humanitarian priority. Every phrase designed to save face. Because sometimes face is what leaders protect when the world is inches from fire. Out on the Pacific, the sea is still cold and indifferent, but the missiles stay in their dues for one more night, and for the first time since the Bering blaze, crews sleep in fragments. Boots on radios. Hearts still racing, yeah. The story doesn't end here, my friends, because in the next chapter, assume leaked recording, one disputed radar log, one funeral broadcast on prime time, could rip the lid right back off, and if that happens, the next battlefield won't be a remote grid in gray water. It will be the entire Pacific breathing in unison, waiting to see who panics first. So tell me, do we continue into the day the exclusion box collapses? Or do we follow the investigation that reveals what really fired the first shot in the Bering Sea? Drop your choice in the comments and say one word. Continue. The ocean doesn't forgive, and it doesn't care who was right, only what sank and who vanished. 2312-610 North Pacific, the exclusion box holds. But every radar ping feels like a threat. Fleets keep distance, weapons cold, eyes wide. Restraint feels like glass beneath boots in the storm. 2312-825. The leak tune clip cockpit auto spreads worldwide. Faster than facts can follow. A shaky voice says, tone acquired. Captions scream blame and outrage becomes fuel for the next mistake. 2312-10 o'clock. The investigation cell-free flags share one-time mind and zero trust. Satellite frames, radar, lock, and sonar traces stack into a single question. Who fired first and why? 2312's 12:30, the missing minute 60 seconds of heavy jamming where identities swap and certainty dies. A red dot becomes the wrong target, a local commander acts fast, and the chain reaction begins. 23/12, 14:05, a confrontation truth meets pride, and both refuse to bow easily. The reconstructed timeline shows no master plan, only fear, noise, and systems moving faster than humans. 23/12, 1640, the agreement, thin paper written to hold back thick blood. 29:43, they signed, shared emergency channels, no jamming rescue corridors, wider intercept distances, and double-check rules for ambiguity. 29:49, a memorial is sea of speeches, just names carried by wind and salt, ships slow, horns sound low, grease touch water, and every deck stares at the same cold horizon. Last signal, salvage. Drones find debris and markings that confirm the first launch's origin. Proof shows a local decision in the fog of jamming, not a deliberate order from the top. The ending, carriers turn away, bombers return, submarines fade into silent lines again. The Pacific exhales not into peace, but into the quieter fear, remembering how close it came. From orbit, a burn ring stains the sea, an ugly scar that fades slowly, never fully forgotten. This was hypothetical, but the lesson is real. A misunderstanding and machine speed can outpace restraint. After the echoes fade, commanders stare at empty water, hearing pumps, rotors, and tire radios crackling to polar darkness tonight. Across the Pacific, merchant captains resume routes cautiously, yet every wake feels watched and every horizon seems dangerous. Again now on the carrier deck, pilots and strap helmets leaving salt lines while technicians inventory missiles still sealed inside silent tubes. Russian crews patch scorched bulkheads, whispering prayers in engine rooms where heat diesel and sea smoke blend together at dawn. Chinese officers draft careful reports choosing neutral verbs, trying to describe chaos without admitting how close collapse came for once in every fleet. The same question spreads: what if the next contact is wrong again? A week later, talks begin on neutral ground with folders, sealed drives, and translators standing like shields between eyes today. They call it deconfliction, but everyone knows it is fear wearing a suit holding a pen like steel for survival. Senso, experts replay waveforms, proving jamming bent reality, making harmless echoes resemble attacks at lethal closing distances in raw silence. Each delegation demands guarantees, yet none will reveal all of this because secrets feel safer than truth without trust at any cost. Families wait for lists, refreshing screens, holding breath for names, and fearing silence more than any headline. Each passing hour, memorial services. At sea, salvage teams collect fragments, stack coordinates, and turn tragedy into evidence, and evidence into bargaining chips for leverage. In the joint cell, analysts agree on one fact: the first shot was uncertainty, amplified by fast machines on paper. That finding does not soothe them, it terrifies them, because uncertainty will always exist where humans interpret signals at all. To prevent repeats, they propose shared beacons, common distress codes, and mandatory separation lines for intercept flights. Starting right now, hardliners scoff, calling it weakness, but quietly their hands shake, remembering red screens, alarms, and escalate ladders. Every single time, every proposal becomes a fight over a wording because one adjective can shift blame, and blame reopens the abyss again today. Still, they sign interim measures, limited and temporary, like bandages on deep wounds that might reopen overnight with clenched jaws. Back in port, crews rotate home, stepping onto docks with crowds cheer, yet eyes show exhaustion. Not pride back home. Some sailors cannot sleep, waking to phantom sirens, tasting smoke and hearing steel. Psychologists call it trauma, veterans call it memory, and both agree it changes you faster than years in one night. In capitals, leaders address cameras promising stability, while privately ordering readiness drills to continue without interruption to calm voters outside. New exercises appear on schedules, announced as routine but timed carefully near the same cold waters everyone fears on purpose. Satellites track each movement and commentators draw arrows again, feeding audiences stories that simplify a tangled reality all day long. Yet beneath those arrows lie cables, ports, and markets, all vulnerable to accidents disguised as deliberate intent without warning sign. One evening, a storm damages more networks, and tracking gaps return briefly like a familiar haunting refrain across open water. That single pause becomes a quiet hero proving discipline can outperform rage in the most critical moments when second matter. During a conference, a young lieutenant says softly, "Technology fails, so procedure and patience are our firewall against panic spirals." Older admirals, not unwilling to admit they learned the same lesson the hard way under burning skies without sleeping much. To the public, it looks calm now, but calm is fragile, built from rules not yet tested by angry crowds. Smaller nations watch carefully, realizing great powers can stumble, and that seas might pay for stumbles in distant capitals too. In island towns, fishermen return but keep radios louder, and children learn words that intercept in corridor for weeks afterward. Insurance rates fall slowly but not to normal because risk is remembered long after smoke clears away for many seasons. In labs, engineers redesign identification protocols, adding redundancy while attackers probe networks seeking advantage in new order behind closed doors. Each probe is denied publicly, yet locked privately, becoming another spark banked beneath ashes. Months pass and the burned ring fades, but sonar buoys still mark graves with quiet blinking lights to winter storms. One night a whale surfaces near wreckage, exhaling mist, reminding watchers life continues beside ruins, calmly under pale moonlight again. That sight breaks a hardened sailor who cries without knowing why, then salutes the sea and turns in that moment. Later, diplomats visit the memorial site, wrapping wreaths together, cameras rolling, smiles practiced, hands never quite touching for the cameras. They pose for history. Yet the ocean behind them stays honest, cold, and indifferent to rehearsed reconciliation for a while. In classified rooms, planners update doctrine, writing bold lie. A commander writes privately, the enemy is not always fleets. Sometimes it is our own haste alone in the end. At last, a hotline call happens without crisis, just weather, coordination, and the voices sound almost human for once today. Nothing dramatic follows, and that is the point. Survival is often a story where nothing happens to stay alive together. Still, every sailor who was there carries one warning: next time mercy might not arrive in time ever again soon. Somewhere offshore, the sea keeps drifting and the world keeps living, pretending it was always in control at great expense. And somewhere beneath the waves, the wreckage settles quietly, reminding humanity that restraint is harder than revenge, always in practice. So I ask you, would you win the moment or save the future, even if it costs pride? Leave your answer below and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay for the next cinematic scenario.